Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Joseph Ho. We begin tonight with an update on a second-degree murder trial in St. John's, Newfoundland. The jury has found a Nunavut man not guilty in the death of his co-worker. The trial lasted almost a month. Mark Quinn tells us more about the verdict.
Patrick Sularayak was acquitted late this afternoon by a jury that's been hearing evidence since January 21st. He was charged with second-degree murder after 26-year-old Bernard Otuk died on June 22, 2021. At that time, both Sularayak and Otuk had just finished 30 days of work on a Baffin Fisheries vessel, the Inukshuk. They were staying in rented cabins on Roach's Line when a fight broke out. Police were called and found Otuk unconscious. Later in hospital, he was pronounced dead. Witnesses testified that Sularayak said he had only responded to aggression with self-defense. Otuk's parents traveled from Arviat, Nunavut to be in court for the trial.
My son is 6 feet under. He never got the justice he should have gotten. I have got his children at home. They wanted justice for their father. They didn't get it.
Otuk's mother said the not guilty verdict will get a mixed reaction in their home community on the western shore of Hudson Bay.
Some people will be angry. His family will be happy. And the hardest part is to live in the same community with him. It's going to be very hard.
During the trial, Sularayak's lawyers asserted that he acted in self-defense and tried repeatedly to calm his friend and co-worker. They said Otuk's death was a tragedy but not a murder. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
RCMP say it could be the biggest drug bust in the history of the Northwest Territories. Police have seized 4.7 kilograms of cocaine with an estimated street value close to $1 million. They also seized $360,000 in cash. The seizure came from 2 homes in Yellowknife. Mounties searched the homes last week, one on School Draw, the other downtown. Police also arrested and charged 3 people. RCMP say their work has dealt a blow to the territory's drug trade.
These arrests and seizures have significantly disrupted the drug trafficking and organized crime network within the Northwest Territories. And I am confident that it will make a difference to your residents throughout the area.
None of the accused are from the north. 25-year-old Sapphire Ingham is from Edmonton. Nuruddin Ali and Brandon Alexander Thomas, both 30 years old, are from Toronto. All 3 are in custody in Yellowknife. Police say they have other ties to the community, and they do continue to investigate. In the Yukon, emergency crews rushed to Marsh Lake this afternoon. It's about 40 minutes from Whitehorse. That is where a vehicle and an electric car charger caught fire. Gabrielle Plonka has more from the scene.
I'm here at the Army Beach charging station in Marsh Lake. As you can see behind me, a car does appear to have caught fire earlier today next to the electric vehicle charging station. We received a call this afternoon that the entire road was blocked off. Fire departments were attending. Everybody is gone now. We have put in calls with the Fire Marshal's office and the Yukon government to get more information about what happened. This is one of the Yukon government's charging stations. They started building them in most communities. This one just opened for service in 2020. Gabrielle Plonka, CBC News, Army Beach.
Just an hour ago, the Marsh Lake Fire Chief did confirm on social media that everybody is safe. The fire is still under investigation. Igloolik residents are looking to help after fire destroyed the community's arena this week. The Kipsigak Arena housed not just an ice rink, but a black box theater. Inuit circus collective Art Cirque used it to rehearse and hold workshops. A local resident is trying to support kids who don't have a place to practice for an upcoming hockey tournament.
Kids are trying to go to Iqaluit to participate in tunic time, so I have been fundraising for them. I want them to go ahead, so I am going to keep fundraising for them.
The community is looking to create an outdoor rink. Meanwhile, the cause of the fire is still unclear. The Transportation Safety Board has released its report on a deadly helicopter incident last year. It happened on Akimiski Island in Nunavut, just south of Senikilawak. TJ Deer has more.
Community members from Ottawa-Piscat, Ontario, fly to Akimiski Island in Nunavut every year for the annual goose hunt. But the hunt last year took a fatal turn. A man was killed by a spinning tail rotor while unloading gear at the back of a helicopter on the island. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada says the pilot was on board and had the engine running and the rotors turning. As soon as the pilot felt the impact of the victim against the rotors, he shut off the engine and called for help. The board says the trips to the island were usually arranged by a company called Heli Explore. They would provide safety briefings and have passengers sign safety waivers.
The board found that the 2024 trip was instead organized by an Ottawa-Piscat community member who wasn't aware of what needed to be done. But the report states that the victim was a frequent flyer who had been warned about the risks of standing at the back of a helicopter on previous flights.
The report states that the company now requires pilots to turn off the engine while passengers get off the helicopter. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
A group of MLAs in the Northwest Territories want to form a voting bloc in the legislature. They say this will help address problems the government is overlooking. Nadir Hashmi reports.
3 regular MLAs are pitching a new independent committee that they say will save consensus government in the Northwest Territories.
I can see where they're coming from and I support them.
A Yellowknife resident who attended the MLA's announcement says issues in dire need are consistently being pushed to the back burner.
I support it because accountability and responsibility has to be given at some point.
At the press conference, MLA Richard Jericon said Cabinet is not addressing many concerns small communities have. Having lived in Inuvik, Thrasher says that resonated with her.
I have family who lives in smaller communities and friends, and there's a lot of times that these communities' wants and needs get pushed aside to bigger issues.
A Yellowknife MLA says she is not convinced that an independent committee is a good idea. She says it's not constructive for MLAs to always be in agreement.
I think it's more helpful to sit in a room with a diverse group of people who can question and challenge each other to be able to actually gain more insights and perspectives than you came into the room with.
Morgan says her priority is representing her constituents. She says she doesn't feel right setting aside their concerns just to vote with the bloc. Morgan says she doesn't think she'll be joining the committee, but says she'll be talking to residents for their feedback about it. CBC News reached out to Premier R.J. Simpson, but he was unavailable for an interview. In an email response from his office, he said his government is prioritizing collaboration and good governance. He also said they are working on strengthening engagement with regular MLAs. A political science lecturer says consensus government works best when MLAs listen to one another, exchange ideas, and decide as a group what to do. He says the MLA's move might be an indicator of someone not being heard.
Whether a voting bloc is the right way to do that or not is an open question. But that sense that somebody is clearly not being heard and feeling that they're not being heard, and so that needs to be dealt with and reckoned with.
Press says the MLAs may be trying to amplify their influence, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The government of the Northwest Territories plans to cut funding for family violence shelters. It wants to reduce spending on staff training and meetings by $100,000. Shelter leaders say the government's move shows it does not support people fleeing violence. Natalie Pressman has more.
The funding has been around for decades, and it's all about building shelter capacity through training and sharing ideas. Hawa Doumbaya Sese is the executive director of the Northwest Territories YWCA. It facilitates those meetings with the territory's funding.
I honestly feel like by the government taking this away, they're trying to tell us that the shelter sector that supports women and children fleeing family violence is not important.
Lisa Semler is the Minister of Health and Social Services. She says those meetings can be done virtually.
You know, we have a huge geographic territory, and the cost of moving people around in the territory has become significant, and so trauma-informed training can be appropriate for virtual environments.
Under questioning in the legislature yesterday, Semler said the government provides the shelters with nearly $4 million each year. She said they also fund a lot of other non-government organizations in a variety of sectors, and all of them could use more money. The Legislative Assembly reconvenes on February 25th, where MLAs will continue budget deliberations. Natalie Pressman, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The first Indigenous-owned shelter in the Yukon opened today in Whitehorse. The shelter is in the city's Whistlebend area. The Council of Yukon First Nations owns the Family Preservation and Wellness Center. It will provide temporary housing to First Nations women and children. They will be allowed to stay for up to 90 days. CYFN says the building was designed to feel like a home and not a shelter.
We did not want to feel any institutional, residential, school, hospital, even some of the shelters in terms of just their colors and their details. And so you can see we've made it attempted to be very homey. We have art, we have plants, we have different textures and all those sorts of pieces.
The shelter has 32 beds with separate low and high barrier wings. 5 low barrier beds are for women facing mental health or addiction issues. The center will open on Monday. Health officials say access to mental health care is improving in Nunavik. That message comes as suicides have gone down across Quebec. But in Nunavik, the rate of death is still much higher than the rest of the province. Samuel Watt has more.
A warning, the story discusses suicide.
There's been so many suicides since I've been up in Nunavik, and I can't get used to it. I can't normalize it.
Jasmine John is with Cutavik School Board's Psychosocial Services. Every day she sees the barriers youth face in accessing help, the isolation of services.
And with people going and coming to the fact that you're telling your story so many times, you just lose hope.
Nunavik's rate of suicide is 12 times higher than the rest of Quebec. A spate of youth suicides in 2018 prompted the school board to call an emergency meeting. They discussed anti-bullying strategies, more activities on the land, and treatment for victims of sexual abuse. John says things are improving. Most of the 18 student support positions are filled, and they're talking more with the Quebec government about Nunavik's needs.
Anything and everything can be a suicide prevention when it's health-based, positive-based.
That's Annie Nuluki. She's with the Health Board working on a suicide prevention strategy in Yugumingak. She also believes there's a turn in the high rates of suicide in Nunavik, but she says people are still struggling with generations of trauma, and nowadays people are more isolated, and that goes against the Inuit way of doing things.
In our culture and our identity, the way we survived was that we had a really strong relationship we had a really strong family relationship.
So she's pushing for more traditional activities and for services carried out by Inuit for Inuit. Quebec's Minister for Social Services and Minister for First Nations and Inuit issued a joint statement. They say they signed an agreement in December 2023 for Inuit to have greater autonomy in Nunavik, and they'll continue to expand on that. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
If you or someone you know is suffering, there is support if you need it. You can call the Nunavut Kamatsiaktut helpline at 1-800-265-3333 or Talk Suicide Canada at 1-833-456-4566.
Forced and coerced sterilization of Indigenous people is still happening. The Survivors Circle for Reproductive Justice has supports available for Indigenous survivors. Join the National Registry and access up to $70,000 in healing support funds for individuals, families, and communities. The deadline to apply is March 31st. If you or someone you know has experienced forced and coerced sterilization, please call 1-877-386-0750 or visit reproductivejusticesurvivors.ca for more information.
The Kanuipita National Inuit Health Survey team is going to every community in Nunavut, speaking to Inuit about their health and wellness. And every answer will help us as Inuit determine our own priorities for a healthier future. Together, we will answer the question, Kanuipita, how are we? Find out when we're coming to your community. Learn more at qnihs.ca.
Why don't throw in first base at the sun? Put myself between the bump. Now I'm running, now I'm drunk. Now I'm running like a flaming pig. Escaping off the attitude. Old man eating all my food. Don't be kind, don't be rude. Just shake your boots and let it all get loose.
You are finally here.
Come on! Just talk to me.
Woo!
All you have to do is look.
Nothing can stand in your way. Are you still nervous?
No, I'm not anymore.
If alcohol builds a wall around you, know this. We're here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a way out.
For the past 5 years, Dawson City's cannabis store has been located on 2nd Avenue. The owners now want to move, and they're eyeing a new location just 1 block away. The change is coming with some pushback by residents. Chris McIntyre tells us why.
Dawson City Cannabis is located here, on the 2nd floor of this building. To get to the store, people have to climb up 20 stairs and then down again. For some, it's not a big deal. But according to the store's owner, Anna Radzimirska, it's a huge barrier for elders and people with mobility issues. That's one reason why she wants to now move the store here, on Front Street. She says moving the store will make it more accessible. The new space is called High North, but it will carry some non-cannabis merchandise. But the new location and name isn't sitting well with some residents. Lori Berglund says both the name and the location are inappropriate. She says the store will be down the street from a daycare and across the street from a space where kids, families, and community members gather on a daily basis. She feels having a cannabis store on the busiest street in town will send the wrong message to locals and visitors. Radzimirska says as a parent herself, she can understand Berglund's concerns, but she says she hasn't had any issues with underage people coming to her store, and she's following all of the territorial regulations.
We are not interested in having some kind of a gaudy head shop with flashing pot leaves. This is not what we want to do. We want to do something very, very tasteful, something very subtle, and something that is in accordance with our very historic Front Street.
The store is expected to open its new doors next month. Chris McIntyre, CBC News, Dawson City.
One of the oldest vet clinics in the Northwest Territories closed its doors today. This morning, staff at the Great Slave Animal Hospital told CBC News they had to leave the building by noon. The animal hospital was founded by veterinarian Tom Peache. He died in June. Today, staff were spotted loading materials into vehicles. Clients have been told they need to pick up any medication for their pets today. The federal sales tax holiday ends this weekend. The government cut the GST on items like diapers and restaurant meals. It was to give cash-strapped consumers some relief and a boost to businesses. But was it worth the effort? Anis Hadari reports.
There are mixed reviews out there about just how much a GST cut changed anyone's shopping habits.
No, not really. It's not like, oh, now I can go for a vacation. Or, oh, now I can buy, I don't know, like a PlayStation.
Well, I guess if I added up the numbers, it would show up. But really, in terms of behavior or buying, it had no bearing.
The biggest difference has definitely been at restaurants. I'm more encouraged to go out to restaurants.
Restaurants like this one agree.
I think it was a much needed relief when they saw their bill. They were very excited to see that tax break reflect on their bill. It was much less than they were expecting.
Industry leaders want the cut to stay to help a sector they say is struggling.
This is actually working and stimulating the economy and providing Canadians with the relief that they needed to be able to treat themselves on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis.
But the reviews aren't as hot in other sectors. One of Canada's largest payment processors said they saw fewer card transactions in the first month of the GST cut compared to the year before, with Moneris suggesting the tax break didn't boost sales, something predicted by many economists.
You called this a nightmare several months ago. Has the dream come true?
Maine government managed to use several $billion in one of the worst ways I could imagine, so I suppose so.
The GST cut was projected to cost $1.6 billion.
We knew that this was going to be an expensive policy with the general idea that it would make people feel like life was more affordable. I think that at a fundamental level, that hasn't shifted.
On top of that, retailers like this one agree this tax break didn't seem to drive spending.
I think it was such a non-starter. I think we didn't feel that it was fantastic or like terrible. It just didn't really do anything.
So by Sunday, say goodbye to the tax cut that just didn't cut it for everyone. Anis Haydari, CBC News, Calgary.
Iqaluit's property taxes are going up. Council approved the rate changes this week. Tax bills for residential properties will rise an average of 3%. For mixed-use and commercial properties, they will go up by 10% on average. Industrial properties will see an average increase of about 13%. City Councillor Kyle Shepherd spoke against the mill rate bylaw. He says it's too big of a hike, especially for businesses and mixed-use properties.
What is being proposed in this tax increase hurts businesses. It hurts families. It's going to hurt the pocketbooks of everybody in our city.
The bylaw change would raise more than $2.6 million for the city. Iqaluit's deputy mayor spoke in favor of the increase.
It'll allow us to continue to deliver programming, services, and infrastructure to our community, our families, and our institutions, our businesses. This funding will facilitate growth, and the growth will facilitate business.
Only 4 councillors attended the meeting. Deputy Mayor Kimberly Smith and Councillor Methuselah Kunuk voted in favor of the bylaw. Councillors Kyle Shepherd and Amber Aglukark voted against it. Mayor Solomon Awa broke the tie, voting in favor. Site preparation has started in Whitehorse for a new housing development. Range Point will include about 400 housing units. It's a project by the Yukon and Kwanlin-Dunn governments. Each lot will be sold as a 125-year lease to help cover the cost of infrastructure and development. Chief Sean Smith says as caretakers of the land, this project takes on that responsibility in a new way.
Economic reconciliation, it's very important for us to understand that and break that down in our terms, and to look at those opportunities for us to take our tools that we've negotiated over a number of years of building this partnership, and to extend it into actual real infrastructure and needs that supports people within our communities.
The subdivision will also include a park and various types of homes. Construction is planned to begin later this year. We've been enjoying the love in the air this week here at CBC in Whitehorse. My colleagues at Yukon Morning put out a call for love poems. The roses are red kind of ditty. And all week long, Ellen Jones and Ross Bragg were giddy with the love notes from listeners. Here is one final take on a few poems.
Hey there, we're back with our Valentine's Day contest, and we were overwhelmed by the response from our listeners. It's been awesome.
So I'll kick things off from a young Yukoner. The poem is My Name is Kona from Kluane Lake. Can't wait to meet you, but please don't be fake. And that's for
10 years old. That's so awesome.
yeah. So thanks, Kona.
Now, one of our listeners came in and dropped off her poem. This is Sonia Anderson. So beautiful cursive writing. So it says, low bush cranberries and wild blueberries too. I'd love to pick berries in the Yukon with you. Now the freezer is full and it's time to make jam. Let's share it with others. A Valentine's Day plan. So that's fun. Thanks, Sonia.
So then I have one from Jennifer Perrin, and this goes out to her littles. Our love is endless, like salmon used to flow. So we're sending out lots of love, just so you know.
A true Whitehorse one, too. It says, the old Dairy Queen roof is red, the old duck pond turned Walmart blue, the Yukon continues to change, but not my steadfast love for you. And that's Wendy McIntyre Cox.
So this one came in from text from Mary Jane Oliver and Vernon Beebe. My cheeks are red, my toes are blue. It's 40 below, but I'm still hot for you.
That's perfect. Thanks so much for everyone that made the week really fun. And yeah, we'll do it again.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. I'm Joseph Ho. Thank you for watching. Good night from Whitehorse.
I was fighting losing battles with opponents disguised as friends, and coming home to a different fight that never ends. I saw no other choice. I had to leave a roof for the rain. But sometimes I wonder if there was a path with more to gain. Maybe the opportunities would have been better, and every day would take me further towards something greater.
To help create new paths for youth experiencing homelessness, the Home Depot Canada Foundation is committing $125 million by 2030.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
That is crazy. Jumped in the car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Earth is our collective home that makes us all family. As family, we strive to love and protect each other. Diversity of species is our strength. We are all connected. We survive and thrive together. We celebrate many things this season and make many choices. Taking care of our family should be the easiest. We're in this together.